Alright guys, my name is James K. Jones and welcome to my basement. I'm excited to be shooting another basics video, and in this one I want to talk about spices. It's questions I get from people all the time. Salt, pepper, the things that I use, the things you can use. One of the most asked questions I get is, James, how do you make your food taste so good? I say, because I know how to cook. But the truth is, you just have to know how to use your spices. But I was just going to share on this video just what I do. If you know how to season your food, great. If you don't, I'm just going to show you the things I use. Let's get at it. All right, so probably the most important place to start is just with salt and pepper. But these days, there's all kinds of salt. There's sea salt, there's designer salt. You can get confused. I just, basically the bottom line to salt, it's all sea salt. All the salt that we have comes from a place where at one time the sea was. So that's how the salt got there to start with. So when you get into the designer salts and the different things that you can come up with, at the end of the day, salt is salt. And if it's salty, then it's going to salt your food. So we've got the kind my granny always had in her kitchen, the regular old salt. I don't really use this. It's not because it doesn't do the job. I don't like the texture, and it's easy to oversalt food when I use this kind of salt. Then there's the coarse kosher salt. I would use that any day over this kind. I like to use this just because the texture and it's so much easier to handle. Then I say, talking about the fancy salts, I love the Himalayan pink sea salt. I don't think that it's necessarily bringing anything as far as salt extra to the table, but there are minerals and stuff that are in this that I believe enhances the flavor. And then you may ask, how do you salt your food? I use a dredger most of the time in my kitchen. If I'm off site, I'll put my spices and herbs and stuff in a little bowl. I'll use a bowl. You'll see me a lot of times when I'm doing cooking videos on TV or doing recipes on here. I'll just use one of these little things because it's pre-measured. But basically, you want to be able to get to it fast, and whatever salt is the easiest kind for you to use that. But salt is definitely the key necessary ingredient in making delicious goodness. So I would say the next most important thing is what kind of pepper you use. You use black pepper, you use white pepper, there are pink peppercorns. I prefer white pepper. Do you use ground pepper? Do you use peppercorns? Do you crack your own? How do you do that? I went through many years of thinking that I had to use a pepper grinder for my food to be delicious. It's hard once you get something in your head, it's hard to get it out. When I opened my first restaurant, we were killing ourselves because we were putting out so much food, cracking pepper all the time, till I got a coffee grinder. I started grinding my peppercorns. But over the years, I came to a place of realizing I love cracked pepper, like on a salad or on eggs, something I'm doing I'm going to eat right then. But for everyday cooking, I generally use ground white pepper. I get it's already, it's fine, it's dusty, and it works in my recipes. So there's black pepper, there's white pepper, and then we got white peppercorns and black peppercorns, that you can put in the grinder, or if you want to make your own, get a spice grinder and just buzz it up. that works too. What's the difference? When I was a kid, the only thing I knew about was black pepper. This was what my granddaddy had on his table. Just, give me my eggs, honey, put my black pepper on it. But the first big kitchen that I worked with was Chef Patrick Quillette. He introduced me to white pepper. And the reason he introduced it to me was it was my job to make the mashed potatoes for like 200 people. And he said that if you put black pepper in mashed potatoes, it looked like bugs or something that were in it. And I thought, I've never thought that. I always thought that looked like mashed potatoes with pepper in it, or like pepper gravy or something, white gravy. But he was a classical French chef, and he did not want anything that didn't look right. So he wanted things to be perfect as far as the food that he put out. So we used white pepper. And the first time I smelled it, I thought it smelled like a cow. Like, this smells funny. But it was because I'd never smelled it before. I didn't understand it. But over the years, I grew to love white pepper, and to this day, I probably almost exclusively use white pepper. I just love the taste of it. I love what it does for my food. So that's pepper. So if you like to grind, grind. If you like to shake, shake. I think the bottom line is, as long as your food is getting seasoned, salted, and peppered properly, then you're going to be okay. All right, and then next down on that list for me would have to be cayenne pepper. I use that in a lot of my dishes. I'm not a fan of super hot stuff, but a little bit of cayenne pepper, like in pimento cheese or in several of my recipes, just that little, it adds that little bit of flavor that just puts it over the top. And it also, when you use cayenne pepper and you use it properly, people will sense some heat or something like at the back of their palate, and they'll try to figure out, drive themselves crazy trying to figure out, you know, what is that? James, what did you do that to make it taste like that? And there's just something that's familiar, but I don't know. And usually for me, it's cayenne pepper. You use it very sparingly, but it adds a lot of flavor as long as you don't abuse it. And then what I'm trying to do here is honestly just show y'all my spice cabinet and what I keep. I don't use a lot of spice blends. I don't use a lot of like pre-made spice blends. I like to make my own, but there's one I'll show you at the last that I use all the time. The onion soup packs. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be called a spice, so if you're one of those food people that want everything to be technically perfect, don't holler at me. But I see this as a spice because growing up, my granny, she used onion soup mix in tons of recipes. And I don't use it in a lot of recipes, but I keep it around. Maybe it's nostalgic for me, I don't know, but I love the flavor this brings to pork or chicken or beef or really just about anything you're cooking. The next one would be paprika. I'm not too crazy about paprika because I feel like it doesn't add a lot of flavor. If you watch my recipe on the bacon jam, originally the recipe had paprika in it, but it didn't do anything for the flavor, but it did do something for the color. So I stopped using it, but then since then I started using it again because, you know, we eat with our eyes first. So paprika for me is technically a spice, but it's not something that really brings anything to the table. Paprika for me is like all show and no depth. So it's all about just how it looks. So if you want your dish to be beautiful, use some paprika. Ground cumin is something that I use quite a bit. I love cumin. I love, you know, the way it smells, especially if I'm doing any kind of a Latin inspired dish, like what it brings to the table. It is that extra thing that you just have to know it to understand what I'm saying. It brings something beautiful to chicken, to beans, to chili, anything that you're cooking, and I love cumin. The next one will be taco seasoning. I know a lot of people say if you're a chef, you should make your own. I have made my own, but honestly, I don't use a lot of taco seasoning, but I have a few recipes that call for it, and I like to get it pre-made. I've got one, you know, as long as you find one that's not loaded down with chemicals and other stuff, I think you're okay with that one. And then since we're on like the Latin flavors, my wife Haley, her aunt Nora is married to Julio Travieso, and he's Cuban. And he's an American citizen. They live in Florida, but he travels back to Cuba from time to time. And then just in the process of me asking him questions, I asked him, you know, what's the thing that they need the most, that you take the most? And he said they want Tylenol, and they want this little thing called Saison seasoning. And I'll show it. I'll do something where at the end I'll put it in. I'll put all this in the show notes. I'm not even sure what's in this, but because of what he said, they were crazy about it, I went and bought some and I tried it, and I've been using this in my beans ever since, and I love this. This is Saison Goya Con Culantro Acodi. It says this unique seasoning will add color to your food. I think it has a little paprika in it. It has some ground cilantro dried out, but this is a phenomenal one. You'll probably see this on some of my recipes. And then finally, I'm going to do another basics video where I talk about garlic and stuff like that. But if we're talking about spices, you know, you got your powdered garlic and your granulated garlic. When I first started cooking, just because of the way I grew up, this is what we cooked with. If you wanted garlic, you got garlic powder. You know, later on I found out, oh, there's granulated garlic. We can do something different with that, which I would prefer the granulated garlic. If I had to cook with anything, it's just easier, I guess, to control. Really don't cook with this much anymore. I like to use fresh garlic. But I keep some of this in my pantry in case I have to make some ranch dressing mix, which is, I guess, my favorite of all. And we'll end with that one. A lot of people don't realize that ranch, the mix that you make ranch dressing out of, is an awesome seasoning. I call it delicious goodness season because it brings the party to just about anything that you're doing. I'm showing my age here, but I first tasted ranch when I was in the 3rd grade. Believe it or not, to younger kids, we grew up without ranch, the internet, iPads, all that stuff. But the first time I tasted ranch, I thought my life has changed. I'm in heaven. I've arrived. I just fell in love with it. And I had to learn how to, even as a little kid, I fell in love with it. I wanted ranch everything. And that was before they even started making ranch everything. But I love the dry ranch mix as a spice, as a seasoning. It is amazing. It brings it to the table. Obviously, the Hidden Valley Ranch is the best one to buy. That's they're the ones I think that created it, or these are the first ones I knew about. But then I've tried other ranch mixes. They don't even come close. Some of them are green and nasty. I try to stay away from all those. I think I've tried every ranch mix there is on the planet. And until recently, this is actually a Walmart brand, and it's about 1/10 of the price of this. It's the same. Like, I don't know how they cracked the code, but they got it. They got it down. So either one of these do. I went through a season right after my daughter was born where I was paranoid about certain foods. Somebody told me that ranch had MSG in it. I found out later that was not true. But I went through a season of my life where I didn't want to use anything that was processed. So I started making my own ranch mix. I may actually make a YouTube video where I show you how you can whip up your own. It's really not that hard, but it's really not that hard. I did that for years and years at Cairo's and when I was working at the foundry doing their food service, but we called it DG Seasoning, which stood for Delicious Goodness Seasoning. But now that I just got to a place where I just don't have time to do that all the time, so I love it. I use it. It is probably the one secret ingredient or secret spice, in my repertoire, however you want to call it. But that's about all I do for spices, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this basics video. For more, look me up on Facebook and Instagram, and now TikTok. Look up Chef James K. Jones. Also, if you want to get to know me better, look up my podcast, the Straight Outta Prison Podcast. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison Podcast. My name is James K. Jones, and this is my story.
And this is Haley Jones, and this is his story that has now become a part of my story.
And remember, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, comment, help us keep doing what we do. And if you want to never miss a video or a recipe, hit that little bell to give you notifications. We'll see you soon.